When you're really, really upset about your spouse and would like to file for divorce, the first thing that comes to mind, I want to annul this marriage, and let's discuss the difference between annulment and divorce. When you file for divorce, afterwards the judgment will say you're divorced, and then afterwards you can say I'm divorced. Now, if you feel that some of the reasons apply that I'm going to list, then in the form FL100, instead of clicking irreconcilable differences, you would click one of the reasons for annulment. And then afterwards, once you get the annulment judgment, you're not going to be saying in checking in different application forms, you're divorced, you will be never married. So because annulment means the marriage is void, meaning it never existed. And because it's so specific, the court will not accept any other reasons for annulment than the ones listed in the form FL100, which are the reasons: incest, bigamy, minority, current spouse mistakenly believed deceased, unsound mind, fraud, or physical incapacity. I have, for every single reason, a separate video that I will link down below. Incest is obviously for spouses who are siblings, parent-child, aunt. So the list is basically close family members. Bigamy means if at the time of marriage the spouse was already married to someone else, even if that marriage in another country was valid, doesn't matter. We're looking only at California law. The reason I would like to discuss today, because it's the most common reason, is fraud. And it comes up a lot of the times. And Case of Appeals decided already on some of the issues that came up. For example, ignoring marital obligation to fidelity may be a reason for annulment. And in that case, husband married wife, thinking that when he's marrying wife, she's totally okay and he's totally okay sleeping with her sister. She was not okay, and therefore, when she filed for annulment, the court granted it. However, one big note is if someone discovers a reason for fraud, such as, for example, this type of infidelity, and stays married, living with the same spouse for 8 months, that's implied consent, meaning you accepted the situation, you're okay with it. So then no annulment would be divorce. For example, another situation of Court of Appeal where a wife was complaining that she discovered her husband had drinking problems that she didn't know before wedding. That was not enough. Financial status, she thought he had one financial status, turns out different financial status, not enough. So the court is looking at the case-by-case basis. For example, green card is one of the examples where a spouse might say, well, that's not okay that I married thinking this is a legitimate marriage, but it turns out the spouse wanted a green card. But if the marriage was consummated, then we're in the gray area. If the other spouse wanted a green card and the marriage was not consummated, then we have a different set of facts. So classical example, if they married, the marriage was never consummated, this is a good reason for annulment. The timeline to file for annulment is 4 years. It's statute of limitation, and the burden of proof is clear and convincing evidence, meaning not just preponderance of evidence, not reasonable doubt, it's in the middle. It's clear and convincing, meaning you have to show, ideally, text messages, witnesses. Of course, your own testimony is going to be considered whether it's credible or not, the other side's testimony. So gather all the evidence if you would like to get an annulment. Annulment is not something that's going to be granted like that. Usually, when you check this off in the form FL100, what will happen? Nothing until you actually file FL300, request for order. And if you request an annulment and the other side says, no, I would like divorce, then the court will set for an evidentiary hearing, so-called trial, longer cause hearing, which can last from 3 hours to several days. And usually it's not being set right away. Right now I'm looking in a trial setting in different counties a year in advance. So an annulment is not a slam dunk, get it done type of situation. It's expensive. And if both parties, if the other party doesn't agree, it means more, in most cases, it means trial. And then the court will consider all the evidence and then decide, and then you can submit the judgment, and then it will be final. So in over a decade of doing this, I had only 2 annulment trials. Because when people realize, oh gosh, we were married for, 2 months, and yes, this was really bad. The marriage wasn't consummated, but the other person wants to get a green card, and I have to prove all of that. And we did that for 6 days because it was also with domestic violence, and the other person wanted women of abuse green card application or get a basically status, and then annulment would have hurt them, and they wouldn't agree to walk away with anything other than a lot of money and divorce. So my client felt compelled to get this marriage annulled, which meant this other spouse would have been deported. And so we had to go through these steps, and it costed a lot of money. But most people decide not to go for annulment for that particular reason, because the other spouse will, in most cases, will say no annulment. And we end up in divorce anyway. So this is, on one hand, a consideration for emotional well-being, to say, I would like this marriage to be annulled. I am being mistreated, or this is not right. But then another factor to consider, what would it take to actually go through with the trial? So anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, ask them down in the comment section below, and I will see you in my next consultation. Bye.